Explosions. I mean, who doesn't love a big boom? Any fan of action films will tell you that the explosion is always the best part. Blasts ringing out as the hero makes their intrepid escape just in time. But that's the movies. What you'll find in real life is often a whole lot bigger and a whole lot scarier. Yes, explosions are not just for appearing cool if you don't look at them. They're a fact of everyday life on Earth, and today we're going to look at some of the biggest. On the 4th of August 2020, a large fire broke out at a warehouse in the capital port of the city of Beirut in Lebanon. Large plumes of white smoke billowed from the warehouse, which was believed to have been storing almost 3,000 tons of ammonium nitrate. This chemical is a popular fertilizer, but it also moonlights as a powerful explosive. After the fire had broken out, it didn't take long for a violent explosion to rip through the heart of the capital. An enormous fireball rose as a devastating shockwave tore through the city, and the damage left behind was like something out of Apocalypse Now. For starters, the explosion left a 140-meter wide crater where part of the port used to be. Other warehouses in the immediate vicinity were reduced to rubble. According to the BBC, the blast could be heard 200 kilometers away in Cyprus. Beirut International Airport's windows over 5 miles away were blown out. A ship was lifted out of the water, and seismologists registered readings equivalent to a 3.3 magnitude earthquake. The financial cost of the city lies in the billions. For a non-nuclear explosion, this was insanely powerful. Worse still was how it affected the Lebanese people. 300,000 people in Beirut were made temporarily homeless. Hospitals were quickly inundated with patients as over 5,000 people were injured and 200 lost their lives. In the aftermath, the people were angry. How could this have happened? How did almost 3,000 tons of poorly stored explosives find itself at a port in Beirut? Well, unbelievably, the story actually begins an entire 7 years before the explosion itself. Way back in 2013, a cargo ship registered to Moldova carrying 3,000 tons of ammonium nitrate suffered technical issues and needed to dock. The fertilizer on board was confiscated after the vessel was abandoned by its owners. It was supposed to be sold or disposed of, but for whatever reason, this never happened. Large amounts of ammonium nitrate stored poorly is highly dangerous as it breaks down over time, posing a fire hazard, which is never a good thing for an explosive substance. So, once one broke out, the rest was simply inevitable. The blast truly shocked the world, and the Lebanese government's still cleaning up the mess today. Subsequent investigations have found that Lebanese officials were criminally negligent in the way that the chemicals were stored, but other reports suggest that the catastrophic risk was simply accepted. It's a stunning example of why we have health and safety regulations and the genuinely horrific consequences of not adhering to them. Just before we continue with today's video, a quick shout out to our fantastic sponsor, FOREO. And let's be honest, good skincare, it's not really optional anymore, especially in winter. My skin gets incredibly dry. If you want hydrated, glowing skin without spending hours on complicated routines, FOREO absolutely have you covered. I've been using many of their devices. This is the Bear, which has been my steady companion every morning. I use this for a couple of minutes on my face. Gets rid of those fine lines, you know, now that I'm approaching middle age. Something to be aware of. Plus there's the UFO 3, there's the Bear, there's the FAQ 202, which I don't actually have with me because I was literally just using it on the weekends. And unlike these, I only have one of the FAQ 202. They sent me dupes of the other ones so that I can take some home and still have ones to show you, but I left that at home. I was using it, so there you go. The UFO 3, that delivers deep facial hydration with pro-level facial treatments in just 90 seconds. The Bear tightens and lifts with microcurrent technology. And if you're still using your hands to cleanse your face, what are you doing, you caveman? Luna 4, total game changer. And here's the best part. FOREO's Valentine's Day sale is here right now. You can save 50% off on FOREO products, plus get an extra 10% off with my code SPROJECT10. So don't miss out on a rare discount. Click the link below and use the code SPROJECT10 to grab the perfect Valentine's gift day for you or someone special. Mostly for someone special, but I'd buy these for myself. Back to today's video. Yes, the MOAB actually exists. It's not just a kill streak you might get when playing Call of Duty. The so-called mother of all bombs actually stands for Massive Ordnance Air Blast. This bomb got its start in 2003, just in time for the start of the Iraq War, and was developed by Albert Lee Wilmots Jr., an engineer at the Air Force Research Laboratory. It is considered the most powerful conventional weapon in the United States' vast arsenal. But just how powerful is it? Well, an MOAB contains around 10,000 kilograms kilograms, with about 8,500 kilos of that being high-grade explosives, which gives it a blast radius of over 1.5 kilometers. For reference, a common bomb used by US forces, the Mark 82, weighs around 230 kilograms, with close to 90 kilograms of high explosives and a radius in the tens of meters. All of this equals a much bigger boom, and that presents a bit of a problem. You see, the MOAB is so large that the use case for it is pretty limited. Rules of war tend to mean that you can't drop a bomb with a radius of 1.5 kilometers without some major collateral damage. Many of the places that the US has found itself fighting in lately have been in urban areas where civilian casualties would be too high to even consider using it. So we haven't actually seen its use in combat very much. But we have seen it, and we've got the video to prove it. In 2017, the US Air Force dropped an MOAB on ISIS hiding in Afghanistan's mountain tunnels, representing a good example of when this kind of weapon can be used. The bomb would have collapsed the tunnels inside, which, alongside the explosion, would have ensured that everybody inside was never getting out. The view from the aerial infrared footage is grainy, but it does get across the point of just how large a conventional weapon explosion could be. Test footage from 2003 is also available in full color and paints a similarly destructive picture. One thing is for sure when it comes to the MOAB, you don't want to be anywhere near it when it goes off. Now onto the largest man-made explosion ever recorded. To break the record, it had to be a nuclear weapon, but not just any nuke, the Tsar Bomba, the largest nuke ever. Although the Tsar Bomba is actually the Western nickname for the device, labeled RDS-220 by the Soviet Union. Now, this isn't just the mother of all bombs, it is the mother of all nuclear bombs. So how big was it? Well, as you can imagine, it was, to use the scientific term, enormous. At around 8 meters in length, it was roughly as long as a London bus, with a diameter 7 times that of a standard dinner plate. It was designed to be a 50 megaton bomb, about 1,600 times more powerful than the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined. And you know what? Its test on October 30th, 1961 really did show that. It was dropped at around 11:30 a.m. Moscow time at the Michishika Bay nuclear testing range in the northern Arctic Circle. There are not enough superlatives to describe the size of the blast here. It is so large that it seems to happen in slow motion, and your eyes need time to adjust to the footage to even assess what you're looking at. Aerial views from Soviet jets monitoring the situation from very far away show a bright flash that lingered for an eternity before a gigantic mushroom cloud could be seen erupting a full 64 kilometers into the atmosphere. The aftermath of the explosion showed the true scale of the devastation. It was calculated that a person would experience third-degree burns even at a full 100 kilometers from the epicenter. It represented 10% of the yield of all nuclear devices ever tested. In Soviet districts hundreds of kilometers away, wooden houses were completely demolished, and the shockwave was felt almost 700 kilometers away from ground zero. That's like setting off a nuke in Basel, Switzerland, and feeling a shockwave in central London. Windows were shattered in Norway and Finland, and seismic sensors continued to measure the shockwave even as it had traveled around the planet 3 times. In terms of its raw power, the effects were unprecedented. Even the plane that dropped it barely escaped the blast. There is simply nothing like it, and there may never be again, which makes the rare footage we do have of the enormous blast even more special and even more harrowing. If a device of this size were ever dropped on a large population center, or even just near one, it would be absolutely cataclysmic. Finally, we have a powerful explosion that managed to be captured on film in January of 2022, just off the coast of the small Pacific island nation of Tonga. 60 kilometers north of Tonga's main islands, the Tonga Hunga-Tonga underwater volcano erupted. And as volcanic eruptions go, it was a doozy. You see, some volcanic eruptions can actually be explosive. Gas can build up inside the super hot magma, and given how heavy the thick magma is, it can be hard to escape. As a result, the pressure builds and builds until eventually it's released all at once. This is believed to be what happened on a massive scale at Hunga-Tonga, which explosively erupted for a full 8 minutes. The footage shows huge plumes of ash being catapulted into the atmosphere, with satellite views displaying the sheer size of the eruption. Those in Tonga said they'd never seen anything like it. The volcano had been flaring up for a while, so an eruption was expected, but the true force of the eruption could not be. The eruption itself was the largest underwater explosion ever recorded. Communication lines to Tonga were severed, cutting it off from the rest of the world, and the Red Cross reported that 2 islands had to be evacuated owing to the destruction of all their homes. Not some homes, that's not half the homes, that's all of them. 99% of Tongans were affected in some way by the volcano. A tsunami caused by the eruption itself then hit the Pacific island nation, resulting in the deaths of 5 people, but many more were displaced. The eruption also caused a powerful shockwave that emanated outwards and traveled around the world, resulting in large waves washing inland as far away as Peru, California, and even Europe. To get an understanding of the force that we're talking about here, the BBC reported that 10 cubic kilometers of material was displaced by the eruption, equivalent to 4,000 Egyptian pyramids, and the explosion was heard in Alaska, 6,000 kilometers away. It was so violent and beyond volcanologists' estimations that it actually reshaped the sea floor. But that's not all. As this was an underwater explosion, a huge amount of H2O was ejected in the blast. Experts have stated that almost 500,000 tons of water vapor was sent into the stratosphere, enough water to fill 58,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools, and raising the water vapor content in the stratosphere by between 10 and 15%. As water vapor is a greenhouse gas, this eruption actually contributed to rising global temperatures in the short term. It was an explosion large enough to affect the whole planet. It's a really big, big boom. So these are just 4 of some of the most powerful and devastating detonations ever captured on film. There are plenty more out there, but these ones show the range of explosions that can happen on our little blue dot. Whilst it can be shocking, these videos are highly important references illustrating what we and our planet are truly capable of. Whether it's ensuring that there will forever be the safe storage of hazardous materials, a warning to how we can deal with environmental disasters as the planet changes, or just how big a boom we can make while blowing each other to bits, having these recordings can hopefully be a lesson to future generations to do things differently. Thank you for watching.